Hey guys, it's Melissa with Tilted K Homestead. I had gone apple picking last weekend, and during the week it's been so busy that I haven't had time to do anything with those apples. So this morning I thought I would make my applesauce. I plan on making probably regular applesauce and then maybe some cinnamon applesauce. I thought that you would want to join me today and watch that process of making applesauce. Now, I've made applesauce before. I'll share a link to that up top, and you guys can check out that video if you want. So today I have a mixture of Macintosh. Now these are really big apples. When we were at the apple orchard, we decided that we wanted two different apples. So we found some Cortlands, and those are a little bit smaller. You can see the significant difference between the Macintosh and the Cortland apples. So this recipe calls for about 12 pounds of apples. Now I know I definitely have more than a double batch here. I picked a half a bushel of apples. I went with my husband Eric and my daughter Ashley and our two grandchildren. So that was a fun day. We didn't really do a video that day because we decided, oh, let's just have some family time and forget about videoing for that day. So, but if you do want to see us apple picking, we do have videos, previous videos that we have gone apple picking, and we plan on going again because we want to make apple pie filling, we want to make apple crisp, and a couple of other things that we're interested in looking into. So first of all, I need to get all of these apples peeled, cored, and sliced up so that I could get them in my pot. Now in my pot here, I have some water and I have some lemon juice in here to help the apples so they don't turn brown while I'm peeling all the apples while I get ready to actually get them on the stove to get them going. So today I'm going to be using this apple peeler, core, and slicer. So essentially you just slide the apple on the tongs that are here. You get the peeler so that it peels the apple, and then you're just turning and it cuts the peel right off. And then what you're left with when you get to the end are nice apple slices that all come apart. So I'm just going to stick these right into my water and lemon juice bath so that they don't brown. Pull off the core itself, and I have my trash bucket right here. So it's actually a bag that I have on the bottom. It's not actually trash because I like to save all my apple peels and the cores so that I can go throw them out to the deer or any animals that will eat them. Because we are still living in the cabin. We haven't gone down to Arkansas yet. We're still living here in New England, so we're looking forward to that though. But we're doing a lot of practicing preserving, and that was the other thing that I didn't mention too. Today, not only am I making the applesauce, but I'm also going to be preserving it. So we're going to be canning that in a water bath canner. Alright, so let's get going on getting these apples cut and cored and peeled. There goes another one. Now, sometimes this isn't perfect. Quiet. Sometimes they peel off after, but for the most part it really does do a good job in getting the apples. They're a little excited. That's why they're barking. They think that Eric is home because they hear cars outside. But he's not. He's actually out hunting today, hoping to get a deer so we can get some red meat in our freezer. That would be absolutely wonderful. But like I said, I am using a mixture of Cortland and McIntosh. We find that when we make applesauce or apple pie or any kind of apple dessert or any kind of treat, it seems to be better flavor when you use a mixture of different kinds of apples. Alright, so I am going to finish peeling the rest of the apples that I need for my first batch of applesauce. And then I'll come back and show you guys what I do next with these apples. Okay, so I have gotten all my apples that I need for the first batch peeled, cored, and sliced. So they're in this pan right now. And the next thing we're going to do is I am going to drain them. Alright, so here I have my strainer and my pan of apples. So we're just going to dump those in there. Oh, there's a lot of apples in there. Alright, so as you can see, some of these apples still have the peel on them. So we're just going to go through and we're going to take the little knife and just go around and get the rest of the peels off. Alright, so now that I've gotten all of my apples back into my pot after checking them over and making sure there's no peels or cores left in there, we're going to come over here and add a little bit of water to the bottom of the pot, just so it doesn't stick. So, the other thing that I was going to tell you guys too is this recipe comes from the Complete Book of Home Preserving from Ball. So this is one of our favorite books that we've gotten a lot of recipes from. This recipe does call for sugar. It calls for 3 cups of sugar to the 12 pounds of apples. But I don't like my applesauce as sweet, so we usually cut the sugar about in half. So I'll only be using about 1.5 cups of sugar to the 12 pounds of applesauce today, along with the lemon juice, because the recipe does call for a lemon juice too. So this is not something that I tend to change a lot. We usually follow the recipe to a T, but it does say that the sugar is optional. But we do like a little bit of sweetness to it, just not over sweetened. So like I said, about 1.5 cups. That should work. Alright, so let's get this on the stove. So the reason that they tell you to add water is when it starts to actually boil, you don't want your apples to stick. So that's where the water comes in at the bottom. So it's probably about 1 cup of water that you're adding into it after you drain your water from sitting. Then it's on medium-high heat, and you bring to a boil until your apples get tender. So once they get tender, then we're going to go back in and I'm going to mash those all up. Now, last time I made applesauce, I used my food processor. And the food processor works really well, but you have to do it in small batches. So I find it took a little longer because you have to put them in the food processor, then you have to mash them around, then take it out, put them in the pan. So this time I'm going to try an emulsion blender and see how that works this time. Alright, so now that my apples are on the heat, I also have my canners over here. Now, this is actually pretty warm. It's not, yeah, it's getting pretty hot. It's not quite to a boil yet, but I know my jars are hot. I already put my jars in there, so this canner fits. We're doing quart-sized jars today, so this canner does fit 4 quart-sized jars. As the recipe calls for, you should make sure that you get your jars nice and hot in the water before you put your applesauce in there. Alright, so my apples are getting pretty soft. I'm going to give you guys a look at that so you can look at the pot. See what the apples look like now. These have been on the heat for about 15 minutes. It says about 20 minutes in the recipe. And then I need to let them sit off of the heat for about 5 minutes. And then we're going to start to mash them up with the emulsion blender. Okay, so I've taken my apples off the heat. And now it's time to puree them. So I have my emulsion mixer here. Okay, now that I have it to a nice pureed consistency, this is the time you put in the sugar. The recipe again calls for 3 cups. We're only using 1.5 cups. Then the recipe does call for 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. So let's get our lemon juice in here. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the lemon juice helps the apples keep their color instead of turning brown. So this helps in the canning process too. Now that I've got my sugar and my lemon juice all mixed in, well, that looks so good. It says to put it back on the heat, low heat, so that you can bring it to a simmer while you're actually canning your jars. Alright, those are ready to be filled. So we're just going to start filling our jars. And according to the recipe, it says that you should leave at least 1/2 inch of headspace. So we're going to check that. We'll probably need a little bit more. Okay. 1/2 inch of headspace. Let's stir that around. Get out any air bubbles that might be left in there. Turn this down, it's boiling a little too much. There we go. Alright. So we're going to wipe off the jar. We're going to add a clean lid and a new ring. And once the lid goes on there, it's about finger tight. And then we're going to put it back into our canner. Alright, I am going to get these other 2 jars filled, and I believe the book says it's 10 minutes for processing time on water bath canning, but I will double check and let you know what that says. But I just want to get my jars filled so that I can get them in the canner and get them processing. And then I will come back and show you what those look like. Alright guys, so those jars are in the canner right now. I'll give you a look at that. So I obviously underestimated the amount of apples that I did because I only ended up with 3 quarts instead of 4 quarts of applesauce. I'm not sure what I did. Probably just didn't peel enough apples. I thought I had enough, but I am going to get going on our next batch of apples. The processing time on the applesauce is 20 minutes. So I will give you a look at those when they come out of the canner, as well as the apples that I'm going to do next. I'm going to make applesauce with cinnamon. Alright, my applesauce is finally done. So I did my batch of regular applesauce. That's over here, and I'll show you that in a second. But I'm going to take out the applesauce with the cinnamon right now out of the canner. So what I ended up with was 3 jars of regular applesauce and 4 jars of applesauce with cinnamon. Now with the cinnamon applesauce, I actually followed the same exact recipe that I showed you in the ball book. Let's get that so you can take a look at that again. This book right here. I followed the exact same recipe. The only thing is when you're adding the sugar and the lemon, you also add in any spice that you want in. So for this recipe, it called for the 12 pounds of apples. I added 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. Now you can add as much or as less as you like. It's all about taste. So we just added 2 tablespoons. So with that being said, I don't know what I did wrong with the first batch. I'm not sure if I did anything wrong, but maybe just not put enough apples into the pot. I'm pretty sure the pot was full as it was the second time. I'm not really sure what happened. But, any case, they both tasted fine. Before I put them into the jars, I actually tasted them to make sure that they had enough sugar and enough cinnamon flavor. So, let's take a look at those and see what we got. Alright, so the ones in the front are our cinnamon, and then these jars in the back, which are still a little warm, this is my regular applesauce. So you can definitely tell the difference in the color. Alright, so I wanted to say thank you again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and it's been so great that you guys have been watching our channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. It does help us out a lot. Don't forget to hit that bell so that you know when our new videos are coming out. And also, please share them with all your friends and family on your social media pages. That helps us out a lot too. Alright guys, have a great one, and thanks again. Bye.